Welcome to our program on leadership and organizational change. The program is titled Leaders Now and Then. I'm your host, Greg Cole, professor at Southwestern College in Winfield, Kansas. We're pleased to be here today with one of five Sedgwick County commissioners, Commissioner Tim Norton. Commissioner Norton, welcome to our program.
Greg, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Commissioner Norton, if you could just give our audience a little information about what your role is as commissioner and how long have you been in the leadership role here. I think that would be a great way for us to get started.
Well, I'm in my fourth term, 15th year as a county commissioner.
Wow.
It's an elected position. I've been doing this since 2001. It's a full-time job, and our major responsibilities are fiduciary, financial, and policy. And we don't totally micromanage the day in and day out workings. We have 2,800 employees, so we really set the macro level of leadership and let our county manager and staff and department heads really take care of the nuts and bolts micro management of the organization.
So now with that many people employed, where does organizational culture come from, and how do newcomers learn the culture of an organization? Because I know with that amount of tenure, you've seen commissioners come and go. So how do newcomers pick up the culture of an organization like a county government?
Well, first of all, you kind of ask, where does it come from? I think it comes from years and years of the organization ebbing and flowing and growing and changing, and part of that is historic, part of it is nurtured by the commissioners that are seated, and it is part of the state also and what they try to deliver at the local level. The culture deep into the organization really comes from the leadership and the management and how they respond to the humanity of the organization that you try to create. Counties, by nature, are the delivery mechanism of many social services. So you do have a organization that has kind of a servant leadership approach to what they do. Now there are some other hard landscape kind of things that are done, like jails and roads and bridges, but at the end of the day, most of what we deliver is services to the public. So you really do have to have an organization that kind of have a servant's heart to deliver the culture.
Absolutely. So collectively, how does a group hold people accountable for their actions and make decisions concerning the use of organizational resources? How is that done collectively as a group of five individuals?
Well, I think first of all, you have a strong mission statement, vision, thought process of how you're going to run your organization. And that starts with management and the leadership, the policy makers, but it emanates down to everybody that does their job. And each person in the organization has to understand what their role is, but collectively what the role of the county organization is. And we say that in our statement, our logo, Sedgwick County working for you. And that really describes we do our work for the citizen, for the person, that the taxpayer, the client. And I think that's critical. Much past that, we have a whole list of things that we believe, and we try to communicate that in orientation and every day in the way as policymakers we act and as management in the leadership roles as they act.
But now with equal authority and rank, how does the chain of command work in an organization like the county government? Who's in charge?
Well, truthfully, at the board level, there's five of us. We have a chairman that we elect, but really he runs the meetings. He maybe helps guide the county manager, but without the other county commissioners weighing in on it, voting, setting policy, giving direction, that is just an equal among peers. It's really not the leader. So it's a pretty bifurcated system as far as policy leadership at the board level. At the county manager level, that is the administrative officer that runs the county, and he has a very active day-to-day leadership style that he has to push throughout the organization, but yet he still answers to the board. So it is kind of a bifurcated process, but it works somehow.
So now with that being said, why and under what conditions can conflict be good or bad for an organization like the county government?
Well, it's interesting. I teach some leadership classes myself, and I often say the one thing that can bring an organization, a team, a community of workers down quicker than anything is unresolved conflict. Now that speaks to conflict can be really bad if it's unresolved.
Mm-hmm.
Conflict that's in the organization that creates a tension, a debate, a differences of opinion can be very healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it goes so far that there's never a resolution and it just becomes conflict for conflict's sake,
Mm-hmm.
then it's very destructive. But good conflict, good tension, differences of opinion, a healthy debate can be very good for organization. One of the tenets of good leadership is change,
Absolutely.
and change brings conflict. It brings differences of opinion. It brings people not ready to sign up and be early adopters, and all that creates either an internal conflict or a conflict that manifests itself between people. And that can be healthy
Mm-hmm.
for an organization because it does help you get through that, to learn new things and to understand. By human nature, we don't like change.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates an inner conflict with us because we don't want to get out of our comfort zone. So conflict can be good. It helps people deal with things that are changing in our society, in our organizational structures,
Mm-hmm.
and which may be very good for the organization, but very tough on that individual. So I'm a real believer that conflict is not bad by nature. It's bad when it's unresolved.
Mm-hmm. Now, from an ethical standpoint and in your role, how do you slow down or temper your pursuit of self-interest when others are heavily relying on your actions as a leader?
Well, one of the things I've done over the years as a county commissioner is develop a kind of a self-talk. And one of it I do every morning, I virtually talk to myself about, this is not politics, this is not about me, this is public service. And that word public and service fused together guides me as to what my job really is as a leader of a county organization, as an elected official. It's for the public, it's not for me, and it's service, which talks to doing something for someone else. And that's hard. It's hard not to be self-centered, to egotistical,
Mm-hmm.
to think that you are somebody, that you have authority. I think by human nature, we can lean that way, to
Mhm.
think, you have to thinking, hey, I'm pretty powerful, I make decisions, I can push buttons. And I think you have to self-talk yourself into understanding what your role is. So I work real hard to understand my responsibility at that public service level, at that servant leadership level, and not as somebody of power and authority.
Mhm.
And I don't know that every elected official approaches it that way. They may have other mechanisms, other ways of dealing with it, but that's certainly the way I do it.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner, finally, why be socially responsible?
Well, I think in any organization, it is a social setting. Unless you're a one-man shop sitting in a back room somewhere, it's
Mhm.
a social setting. So there's a broader sense of social, the macro social, which is outreach out into your community to touch the people that are maybe clients, maybe vendors,
Mm-hmm.
maybe neighbors to your business. But there's an inner sociality of responsibility that you have to the people you work with. People have baggage, people have problems, people have things that they need help with as human beings. And in an organization, we have to be able to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
And many times that's one of the things that keeps people from being the best they can be. It's not that they don't know their job, they're not loyal, they're not technically skilled, they bring human baggage to work with them. And to ignore that, to say it doesn't matter, to not be kind of socially responsible to your other employees, to your peers, to management, leaves some things unsaid and undone in an organization that can really cripple it, because people need to know that they are human beings, they're valued as human beings, that their work is valued. I teach another leadership class, and one of the things we talk about is McGregor's X and Y leadership theories. And, X says people don't care about work, they're lazy, you don't invest in them because given their own devices, they're not gonna work very hard. Y management says people are invested, they enjoy work, they find value in it, they want to do a good job. And it's not all about money and benefits, it's about self-fulfillment. And to know that, the difference between being a little more humanistic and caring about people, or just looking at them as a commodity that can come and go and you don't care about, becomes the difference. And I think in an organization, if you're a Y manager, if you lend towards being a servant leader, you're going to find the humanistic social side of people and care about it. Because people, the job is important, and in many cases defines people. How many times have you gone to a cocktail party and the first thing you find out is somebody's name? The second thing you find out is, what do you do? And that doesn't say, what do you do for a hobby? What do you do on your weekends? That defines, what do you do for work? So work is very valuable, but it is in a social context. Like I say, unless you're a one-man shop, you're going to work with other people. You have to learn to get along, work in a team, exchange ideas, communicate, and so being socially responsible to the inner core, but then outwardly into the community is very powerful for an organization. And it gives you places where you can share the human experience and feel good about not only how you affect your community, but how you affect your work.
Thank you, Commissioner Norton. We certainly do appreciate your time and insight.
Not a problem. Thank you, Greg, for having me.
Thank you very much. Stay tuned for our next series on Leaders Now and Then. This was Now. We'll see you then.